question is, should we save indie bookstores? And, I bought a ton of books the other day on Amazon because I had a photo shoot and I wanted to get some bookish shots in, and I didn't have any books and I needed them at the last minute. And yes, I did call my local store to run over and get some, but they're still closed. It's the pandemic, and they told me, tell me what books you want. I will go look it up on the shelf. Are you crazy? I don't have time to look up a book online, ask them to go search on their shelves, and then race over there to grab them from the door to purchase them before somebody else does, because they're not allowing anyone to come in and do browsing. Now, Barnes & Noble is open, but I just chose to call a local bookstore to be supportive, because in the back of my mind, I have this like little voice, and I don't know where it comes from, that I have to support indie bookstores. And it seems to be something prevalent among everybody, but it made me just kind of wonder, like, do I need to save indie bookstores? Like, why should I have to save indie bookstores? I used to love Borders. I know that's not an indie bookstore, but they went out of business, and I'm sad, but I've adjusted. And quite honestly, I'm paying much less for books now on Amazon than I ever did before. So let's talk today about whether or not indie bookstores really need to be saved, and if the arguments that everyone has from before are really still valid today. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, author of the Frosted Misfortunes Cozy Mystery Series, starring my own little kitty cat, Lucky. On this channel, we talk all about mysteries, whether those are books, TV shows, or movies. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Tuesday. So when I think about bookstores, and especially indie bookstores, and I know that they're going out of business and they're not able to compete and stay in business, it's a really low price point, because I sell my own books, right? So my book retails for $4.99, right? And, that's not a lot of money, and that's an ebook. The physical book, I think, is $11.95, so not much more. And every time you make a sale as an indie bookstore, it's pretty small, versus if you're a clothing store, maybe, especially if you're Versace, you're making $1,000 for one outfit. So the margins are much smaller for bookstores, so it is tougher for them just to stay in business in general. The Strand in New York is the biggest bookstore, I think one of the biggest indie bookstores in the US, and I actually do not enjoy going there. And I know that sounds awful, because people come to New York and they're like, I can't wait to go to the Strand, but it's crowded. It is unorganized. There are like books everywhere in all different like shapes and sizes, and it's like chaos to me, although I am a minimalist, so maybe that's why. And also, you better be a size 6 or smaller if you want to fit through those aisles at the Strand, because they are not wide. So that is a whole other thing as well, going into an indie bookstore, because they don't have a lot of space. And the Strand in New York is one of the few bookstores in the world that owns their land. So they don't have to worry about increasing rents and commercial real estate pressure, because they own the building and the land on which it's built. So they don't have that same issue that I know a lot of other bookstores are having. But, just when you think about progress, and I don't know what's coming up, but I do love the fact that I don't have to stand outside and hail a cab. I don't have to call one on the phone. I can just go to my app, and I can use Uber, Lyft, or a different ride share if I'm in New York. They have many more options. I also do not miss having to rent movies at Blockbuster and bring a DVD home and then pay for late fees. And then my local Blockbuster maybe only has 2 or 3 copies. And if I get there too late on a Friday night, I'm stuck watching like something awful in the reject section at Blockbuster. I love that I have Disney Plus. I love that there's Hulu and Netflix. And I don't think any of those things would have ever come into existence if everybody wasn't on a campaign to save Blockbuster. Same thing with streaming music. I love Pandora. I love Spotify. I love SiriusXM. And I don't think any of those would have come into existence if we had tried to keep Tower Records and Coconuts and Sam Goody in business, because we felt like that was really important to keep those kind of places going. The same thing with food delivery. So I do not cook. I think everybody knows that. I order out literally every single meal. I cannot stand buying groceries or anything else. And I can't imagine if I had to only order Domino's or Pizza Hut, because only pizza is the delivery option that's available. Same thing with groceries. I do need a couple staple items once in a while, and I love being able to go online through Instacart or through Whole Foods and just have it delivered to me instead of having to go to the store. What else? I also, if we're just talking about dating, the old days, you had to meet somebody because you had to go out every night to try to like put yourself out there, or you hope that someone would set you up on a blind date. You'd meet someone at the office. Well, now you can just use dating apps. So I guess my point is, I'm all in favor of progress. And if things are naturally going out of business because there's just no interest, the price point is too high, then let's make room for better services and better options. I don't know that online book memberships like Scribd would have ever come into existence if we said that's not allowed and we should only have physical books at physical bookstores. I think it's crazy that we should try to keep something in business that's failing. So to me, I feel like it's all about progress. Now, I found a good article on 10 reasons to save indie bookstores. And so this is from the Literati. So I'm going to go through each of these because I actually disagree with pretty much all of them. So the first is they support new voices. That's not true. There are 3 different indie bookstores here in San Diego that I tried to get my book into, and they all said no. Now, it's possible my book totally sucks, or they just looked at my profile and they're like, she's a total loser. So that's why they didn't want to carry my book. But I think the argument for this article that they're trying to support new authors is not true. I guess that's just one data point, but let's go on. So the next one is the money stays local that you've spent at your bookstore. I don't believe that's true either. The book wasn't produced in your town. I mean, it's possible, I guess, the author lives in your town and then wrote it while they were living in wherever you happen to be. But that book has revenue going to an agent and also to a big New York publisher, and it was physically printed probably over in China or India where it is more cost effective to do so, and then shipped back to the US and then purchased by your local bookseller. So that money is not really staying local. When I think of local, I think of things at the farmer's market where you actually have farmers that grew corn or honey or whatever on the actual local land. And that's when the money stays local. The other thing is indie bookstores give back to nonprofits. As far as I know, they're not doing that well. I don't know that they have a lot of money to give back. I did check those 3 indie bookstores because I was pretty familiar with looking into them, and none of them actually have any donations that they mention or charities or something. Now, that's not to say that they don't actually do that, but I couldn't find any information on their website. The fourth one is that indie bookstores are community resources and they're safe spaces for all people of all backgrounds. And I don't know that any place is not a safe space for people of all backgrounds, like large bookstores. I don't think I've ever been discriminated against in a bookstore. Whether it is independent or whether it is large. Number 5, indie bookstores are job creators. Yeah, that is true. They do create jobs that are local. However, I would argue that Amazon creates more jobs than all the indie bookstores put together. And as it grows, it will continue to create even more jobs. And so, it's the people delivering the books that are ordered. It's the people processing them in the warehouse facilities. It's the people working in IT, the people working in human resources at Amazon. It's a big company and they're creating a lot of jobs as well. The 6th one is indie bookstores pay their fair share of taxes, unlike Amazon. Number 7, indie bookstores support public art. There is no public art at any of the indie bookstores in San Diego. And as far as I know, in New York, I have not been to everyone. I mean, in New York, there are right now, I believe, I've put this number down, 108 independent bookstores in New York City, and I have not been to all 108. But the few that I have been, art wasn't really a big thing that they were trying to promote. Number 8, indie bookstores help keep books alive. I don't know that non-indie bookstores are not helping to keep books alive. I don't know that they're doing anything to hinder their sales. You still have staff selections on Amazon. You still have editor picks. You still have Amazon has Amazon First Reads, where they promote different books to a much larger audience. BookBub promotes books to a larger audience. There are many online services that promote books to a very large audience. Number 9, indie bookstores are advocates for free speech. So I don't know. And again, it says that they help with banned books or censored books. There is nowhere on the internet you cannot buy a banned book. I really just think the concept of banned books is like so 1980 when, you actually needed a distribution center like an indie bookstore to sell it. And even if they did sell your banned or censored book, that's like one bookstore. They're not all going to get together and distribute banned and censored books. So if you want to buy a banned or censored book, not that there really is one here, especially in the US, you could just go to that person's website and buy that particular book. Or there are conglomerates that maybe sell banned or particular taboo kind of subjects. But I kind of feel like libraries, even now, if you want to ban a book, that's your library choice because you're using government funds. And, quite honestly, there are children in there. And I think that's okay if there are decisions made at the upper level that maybe some books are not appropriate for kids. So that's number 9. And then number 10, indie bookstores reflect a town's soul. I think this might be a bit of a reach. So a town isn't a town without a bookstore, quoted by Neil Gaiman. So yeah, I do love bookstores. I do like going to them. I don't know that any of the bookstores, especially different areas, were really speaking to my soul. So yeah. That's kind of it for me as a wrap up for that whole list. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of you probably disagree. And again, it was deeply ingrained into me that I have to buy something at an indie bookstore. And that's why I looked at an indie bookstore in the first place. And then it just kind of brought up the bigger conversation of, is that really true? Do we really need to save indie bookstores? Or should we just kind of let them kind of go out of business and see what happens next and if there's something out there better? All right. I hope everyone's having a fabulous day. Love to hear your comments, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.